Hi, my name is Mary, and this is my CCR for my Media Studies project. In this video, I'll be answering 4 key questions. Let's dive in. So, the question number 1 is, how does your product use or challenge convictions and represent social groups or issues? For my product, I created a psychological horror film about a girl trapped in a terrific horror cycle. This film follows some traditional horror convictions, but it also challenges expectations in a few ways. This was inspired by films like Substance, and this is my film in comparison. I incorporated whisper, atmospheric hums, and a rising tension in the audio to create fear without relying on loud jumps. Instead of typical horror approach where a sudden noise signals danger, I wanted the unease to build gradually, making the audience feel something is always lurking in the background even if they can't see it. Most horror films follows a clear structure where the protagonist either defeats the monster or succumbs it. However, my film challenges this by using a cyclic narratives. The protagonist keeps experiencing the same terrific events, reinforcing the horror of being trapped in an endless nightmare. This structure plays with the idea of repetition and inevitability. No matter what the character does, they can't escape, mirroring real life fears like paranormal, trauma, or psychological distress. Unlike mainstream horror films that rely on sudden loud noises and exaggerated reaction to scare the audience, my film focuses on slow building dread. Instead of immediate gratification through jump scare, I wanted to create discomfort that lingers even after the scene is over. This approach is inspired by The Substance, The Conjuring, and more, where the fear comes from the anticipation rather than the actual moment of horror. Another way my film challenges conviction is in its deception of the horror itself. Traditional horror films often feature dramatic monsters or excessive CGI effects to show the antagonist in full detail. I choose to avoid that because I feel that the scariest horror is what we don't see, the fear of the unknown. Instead of presenting a clear visual of the threat, my film lets the audience's imagination fill in the gap. This makes the horror film more personal as each viewer interprets the unseen force in their own way, making it uniquely terrifying to them. Additionally, horror films often feature a protagonist who either fights back or finds a way to escape. In contrast, my character is not given that resolution. She's caught in a continuous loop, unable to break free. This subverts the expectation that there will be a moment of relief or closure instead of leaving audience unsettled even after the film ends. By following certain horror convictions such as eerie sounds and a feeling of isolation, while also subverting others like linear storytelling and conventional monster reveals, my film creates unique and unsettling experiences that challenges horror tropes. For my second question, how does your product engage with audiences and how would it be distributed? Audience engagement is key in horror films because they rely on building suspense, playing with expectation, and creating an immersive atmosphere. My film engages with audience by using subtle psychological horror film rather than direct scares. This forces viewers to actively pay attention to details and piece together the meaning of the story, making them feel more involved in the experience. Many horror films provide clear explanation of the threat, but my film intentionally leaves the question unanswered. This encourages audience to interpret their story in their own way, making it more personal and unsettling experience. Some may see it as supernatural horror, while others may interpret it as a psychological breakdown. By avoiding clear explanation, I allow room for audience discussion and analysis. In terms of distribution, independent horror films often thrive in online streaming platforms. My film would likely be distributed through online streaming platforms because that's where I found my inspirations from. Another effective distribution method is online streaming services such as Prime Video and Netflix. Many short horror films gain viral on platforms like YouTube because they're easily shareable and often spark online discussions. Social media marketing would be essential, using Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter to share teaser clips. Behind the scenes contents and audience reaction could help generate interest and engagement. Overall, by creating a film that invites interpretation and discussion, and by leveraging online platforms and film festivals for distribution, my product effectively engages audiences that reach the right horror community. Question number 3. How did production skill develop throughout the project? Throughout this project, my production skill have grown significantly. One of the biggest improvement I made was in cinematography and shot composition. I learned how to use lighting and framing to enhance the horror atmosphere. For example, instead of directly showing the threat, I used shadowy lights, observed framing and reflection to create an unsettling feeling of something watching the protagonist. Another major area of development was sound design. Horror film relies heavily on sound, so I experimented with different audio techniques to create tensions, inspired by films like The Substance and The Scream. I layered whisper, distorted noises, and low-frequency hums to make the environment feel alive. Learning to manipulate sound was crucial in horror films to make them feel immersive. In terms of editing, I refined my ability to use long takes, slow cuts, and silence to build suspense. Instead of fast-paced editing, which is common in horror, I focused on extended shots that linger just a little too long, making the audience feel uneasy. I also experimented with subtle jump cuts to create a disorienting effects, reinforcing the cyclic nature of the story. Beyond technical skills, this project also taught me about time management and problem solving. Filmmaking is unpredictable, and I had to adapt to unexpected challenges like lighting issues, retakes, and sound balancing. Learning how to quickly problem solve and adjust my creative approach was an invaluable experience that I will take into future projects. Overall, this project pushed me into a deeper understanding of cinematography and sound and editing, making me a more confident and skilled filmmaker. Question number 4. How did you integrate technology during your production? Technology played a huge role in every stage of my production, from pre-production, planning, to post-production editing. During pre-production, I used Pinterest and watched a lot of film in Netflix to plan my shots and to get inspiration of how I want my shots to be. And I use Pinterest for my mood board, so I can understand like what type of clothing I want my actor to wear and what type of lighting I want it to be there and how the staircase should be. And plus, to get the out of service paper, I had to search it up online, so I used Google. And to write out my scripts, I used Notes. All those apps helped me organize my documents and helped me keep a neat and focused time schedule. For filming, I used a DSLR camera with manual settings to control lighting, exposure, and focus. Since my film relies on subtle visual storytelling, having manual control over the camera allowed me to adjust setting for the best atmosphere. I also used a tripod to achieve controlled slow movement that enhanced the airy tone of the camera. Sound design was another crucial area where technology was integrated. Instead of using stock sound effects, I recorded custom soundscapes using a high-quality microphone and digital audio software. I experimented with layering whispers, distortion, and ambient sounds to create an immersive horror environment. In post-production, I used CapCuts and audio from TikTok and YouTube to edit the film and enhance the sound. I applied subtle visual effects like flickering lights and lower the saturation to create a darker or unsettling aesthetic. And I adjusted the volume and had to edit some audios to make certain sound feel distant or close, manipulating the audience's perception of space and match the scene. Lastly, I integrated social media technology, TikTok, and Instagram by watching short clips of other horror films So this helped me give inspiration for my film and how I wanted to carry my film. Overall, technology was essential in every stage of production, from planning and filming to editing and distribution. Using combination of digital tools, editing apps, and online platform, I was able to enhance the storytelling and overall impact of the film. Thank you.